Yofukashi no Uta is a Japanese manga series, later adapted into an anime series, written and illustrated by Kotoyama, that follows the adventures of 14-year-old junior high student Ko Yamori. Yamori, having been dissatisfied with his life up to this point, decides that daytime is for suckers, and, in an attempt to breathe life into himself, takes to wandering the streets of his hometown in the middle of the night. Of course, these streets are never entirely empty, and eventually, he encounters Nazuna Nanakusa, a vampire who shows Yamori the joys of the night. Yamori becomes entranced by Nazuna's way of life, and decides that he wants to become a vampire too. But the twist is that the only way to do that is to fall in love with another vampire. This leads to a genuinely amazing romance anime with amazing sets, music, and characters that really accentuate that feeling of going out at night and just taking in the world as it is. As I watched this anime, I too became just entranced by Yamori's nightlife. The way that Kotoyama portrays the streets of Japan really makes it feel like it's its own world, separated from the worries and the problems of the day. But then I started thinking, why does Yamori love the night so much? I mean, as far as I knew when I first watched this show, people are literally built to function during the daytime, and we are basically programmed to enjoy the day more, even if we do have other things to keep us entertained during the night. Is there something different about his biology that just makes him enjoy the night over the day? Is it up to preference? Or am I just trying to find some excuse to justify goofing around late at night? While researching this video, I attempted to answer these questions, and honestly, I found out a lot about how the human body works. And I think I may have discovered the true reason why going out at night just feels so right.
アキラは生活サイクルがぶっ壊れてんだよ。
あんたにだけは言われたくないね。
Now to start, I want to cover a bit of human biology. Yes, I know, biology is the most boring subject, but I promise that unlike your biology teacher, I'll try to make it as quick and simple as I can. To be specific, I want to start by talking about the circadian rhythm present in almost all living things. Circadian rhythms are physical, mental, and behavioral changes that follow a 24-hour cycle, present in most organisms from humans to even microbes. And there are 4 different types of these biological rhythms. First off is circadian rhythms, and this is the 24-hour cycle that includes such rhythms as sleeping. Next you have diurnal. This is the circadian rhythm that has been synced with night and day. Next you have ultradian rhythms, which are biological rhythms with a shorter period and higher frequency than circadian rhythms, which are usually less than 24 hours. And finally you have infradian rhythms, biological rhythms that last more than 24 hours, such as menstrual cycles. For the sake of this video, we're mostly going to be focusing on the circadian rhythm. A master clock of sorts, comprising of around 20,000 neurons, controls and coordinates all biological rhythms in people, called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN. By the way, while researching biological rhythms, I found out that someone who studies these biological rhythms is called a chronobiologist, which honestly I think sounds just fucking awesome. It sounds like something straight out of a time travel film. Circadian rhythms affect things such as hormones, eating habits, and even body temperature, with the most obvious function affected by the circadian rhythm being, well, sleep. The SCN mentioned before controls melatonin production, which is a hormone that makes you sleepy. Or, as I know it, that one pill I take to make me pass the fuck out. The main influence on the SCN's production of melatonin is the optic nerves in your eyes, which react to the level of light around you, whether natural or unnatural. This is actually why turning your phone or computer off an hour or 2 before going to bed helps us sleep, because the light from said device delays the body's natural production of melatonin. Other factors that can change circadian rhythms include things like jet lag and mutations in specific genes. These changes can lead to sleeping disorders and other chronic health issues, including, but not limited to, obesity, diabetes, and even depression. I promise that we're almost over with the biology lesson, but I want to review what we've learned so far. So essentially, circadian rhythms are biological changes that are controlled in a system of about 24 to 25 hours, and significant changes to this rhythm caused by things such as getting too much light before bed and jet lag can lead to changes in physical and mental health.
それ、病気って言うんだよ。
Now, I'm sure you're wondering why we just covered circadian rhythms, and that is because now we are going to talk about a disorder that you might have. Yes, you, the viewer. Approximately 16% of adolescents have the disorder known as delayed sleep phase disorder, or DSPD. Delayed sleep phase disorder is a disorder in which a person's sleep cycle is delayed by 2 or more hours beyond the conventional bedtime, or whatever is socially acceptable for wherever you grow up. For example, while somebody might be able to fall asleep at 10 p.m. and wake up for school or work the next morning with relative ease, someone diagnosed with DSPD would only be able to fall asleep after midnight, making it much more difficult to get where they need to go on time. It is important to note that this does not just apply to everybody who stays up all night playing games all night, but it actually applies to somebody whose circadian rhythm is genuinely off balance. Remember that hormone we talked about earlier, melatonin? Well, DSPD affects melatonin production as well. In one study, it was revealed that DSPD patients had significantly later peak melatonin levels, meaning that production of melatonin, a hormone that makes you sleepy, is literally delayed later into the night. Another very important fact to know about melatonin production is that it does have an effect on your mood. The hormone itself makes you feel more calm and relaxed in order to help you sleep, and using it as a supplement can actually help combat jet lag and even DSPD to an extent. However, this sword is double-edged, as it lowers energy levels and can contribute to feelings of depression as the now weakened body loses energy. According to some sources, these negative effects of melatonin can be reduced through vitamin D intake, which is most easily accessed by going outside and touching some grass. And I know that might be a deal breaker for a lot of you guys, but I promise it's worth it.
ヤモリ君だって病気だよ。
え？
学校に行けなくなって夜な夜な遊びほうけてる中学生なんて病気そのものじゃん。
At this point, I'm sure you're wondering how all this talk of hormones and touching grass ties back to my question that I posed earlier, being, what is the reason that Ko Yamori became a night owl? Now, from watching the show, the answer is actually presented in the first episode by Yamori himself. During the flashback in episode 1, Yamori states that due to having to turn down a love confession from a classmate, and after being berated by said classmate's friends for turning her down, quote, I just couldn't be bothered anymore. This sudden lack of interest shows signs of a depressive mood, which can severely affect things such as sleeping patterns. Essentially, I believe that due to his trauma at school, Ko Yamori developed delayed sleep phase disorder, and that is the main reason that he decided to start going out at night. To explain further, Yamori's depressive mood likely caused him to develop insomnia, as being in a depressive state can lead to certain negative effects. These effects include having a low sleep drive, low energy throughout the day leads to you feeling less sleepy at night, hyperarousal, the feeling of being alert when you don't want to be, and, most relevantly, a poor circadian rhythm, which, as we went over earlier, is an obvious sign of DSPD. On top of that, around 10% of those with insomnia develop DSPD, and these symptoms can be worsened by both not getting enough light during the day and by getting too much exposure during the night, a pattern we see throughout the rest of the show. For more proof, Yamori literally states that after his conflict at the school, he started having trouble sleeping, a direct sign of insomnia stemming from a traumatic experience that led to a depressive mood swing. All in all, I think we now have a fairly clear idea of why Yamori started sneaking out at night and adopted the sleep cycle of a vampire. Let's run through the events. First, Yamori goes through a traumatic experience at school. This leads to a depressive mood, which in turn causes Yamori to develop symptoms of insomnia. His insomnia leads to him having trouble sleeping, which in turn leads to his circadian rhythm being altered, to the point where it is more natural for him to be up at these very late points in the night. As Yamori begins to go out at night, his symptoms continue to get worse, as his exposure to both natural and artificial lights continues to shift dramatically, delaying his production of melatonin. While Yamori is still able to sleep during the night, it is inconsistent and infrequent at best. In all honesty, if this was a real person, I would seriously recommend that he go talk to his doctor and maybe even consult a sleep specialist, because I can say from personal experience that having such a terrible sleeping pattern really sucks, and it can really just suck the life out of you. However, seeing as how Yamori is trying to become a vampire, I think that he can be considered the one special exception. Okay, so once I had finished with most of the script, I was reading it over and I thought to myself, well, that's it? the only reason he went out at night is that he has a sleeping disorder. And honestly, while I do believe that is a very large part of it, I think it would be a disservice to the show to not consider the fact that it's probably partially just a case of personal bias. I can say for one that going out at night for a walk is honestly one of my favorite activities, of course, assuming it's not below freezing. It depends person to person, really, as to whether they prefer the night over the day or vice versa. It's important to remember that some people, circadian rhythm and sleep disorders aside, just prefer the night. For some, it's a time to let loose. For some, it's when they can really be calm and focus on themselves more. And some even decide to work on video essays until 4 a.m. because they get a sudden burst of inspiration and... Wait, why does this sound so familiar? I also just want to say that if my hometown was as beautiful as Yamori's is, I would definitely be out way more. Like seriously, Kotoyama and the team at Leiden Films did just an amazing job with the art for this anime, and it is definitely one of my favorite ones to air in the entirety of 2022. Anyways, that being said, if anything I talked about in this video sounds strangely familiar to things that you do, I would seriously implore you to talk to somebody about it. A good place to start is to just go to your doctor and ask them about your sleeping patterns, and then just go with whatever they advise. Trust me, I may have done some research on this, but there is so much more that a professional would know than what I could present in just like a short video like this. Speaking of my videos, I want to give a big thanks to you guys for the support I got on my last few videos. I'm still just starting with this YouTube thing, so seeing any amount of interaction through comments or even just liking the video really shows me that this is something that people are interested in. As the year progresses, I want to try to release more consistently, so if that interests you, go ahead and subscribe. That being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.